Welcome to Victory Through Faith, a place where your belief can be increased so you become empowered to truly succeed. Paul Jones, with his practical teaching approach, brings the Word of God to life. Prepare to receive your victory through faith.
The blank check. Because I think in life, there's a lot of things that go on in life, but we got to get positioned for it. And you have to think about if you are giving a blank check with no limit, I'm saying unlimited, you can write in the number you want to write in on that check. What would you write? See, you have to really think about that as we move on, because I really want to engage you to start thinking about your life as it is today and your life the way it can be tomorrow. See, all that many of us know in life is what we know at this precise moment. That's all you know. So everything built up from yesterday up to this precise moment is all the information in you. That's all you know. We all live in this moment, and we call this moment right now. So when you're dealing with stuff in life and you're thinking about life and moving forward, you're like, man, what are you going to do right now? Because everything that you can do right now is also based on the ability of the things that you can do. If you didn't practice or do certain things yesterday, then you may not have the ability to do what you need to do today. But if you can get your mind right, get your heart right, and know where you want to go, then we know that the future is coming. And you can make things happen in the future. We can see right now, and right now is the results of yesterday. Tomorrow is a blank page. We all have to just come to that reality, that tomorrow is not written. Now, we could sit here and talk about last week, and we can tell everything about last week. And you can dissect last week and say, if I could go back, I would have done this different. But we have to be mindful that going back to see what you would do different is nothing but a behavior. So once you can master the behavior of man, then you can adjust the behavior so it's adjusted going into tomorrow also. Because if you don't adjust the behavior of yesterday, then all you're going to do is repeat the same thing. Now, I don't know about y'all. I seen that show Groundhog Day. You gotta wake up, repeat the same day again. Wake up, repeat the same day again. And they got the other show where it was like 50 dates or something, where the girl has some kind of crazy disease where she'd go through the whole day, and you have to go and court her and redate her each day. Now, that was love, because after about the third or fourth day, I'm like, look here, woman, you're going to have to remember me. But they had to go through the same routine every day, go and meet her at the same place every day. But with the hopes that one day it will adjust and they can move forward. A lot of us, through subliminal understanding, are just doing the same stuff over and over. Now, you may do it with the same person, but it's still the same old stuff. You see a couple, and I ain't trying to get in people's relationships, but you see a couple get together, and it'd be like, man, that man just seemed like he just abused her. Then, like, her last two boyfriends did the same thing. Well, after so long, and she'll say, well, I just picked the wrong ones. I think you got to look and see what you might be doing too. Now, ain't no man got no business putting his hand on a woman. But you have to also say, what's sparking that character? What did you do? Vice versa. Man come on in the wrong woman every time. You're like, for real? Same woman doing the same old thing as the last 3 or 4? Behavior. Do y'all get my point? Behavior. That means instead of saying it's them, you have to put a mirror in your face and say, wait a minute. You remind me, what dude had us on? You remind me of, you understand me, I ain't trying to go there because, I could do it if I wanted to. But if everything is reminding you of something of yesterday that you didn't like, then that means you have to make a change so that when you go and create that new page, that new chapter in your life, it's really new. You have the power and the ability to speak into your future. You got to understand, the power is from God. I'm just going to make that clear. So when you say, Heavenly Father, come into my life, be with me, guide my steps, then you got to understand, now that power comes with instructions. He says, okay, be obedient. But those who say, well, I'm going to do this much of your word, but this other part, I don't know. Well, I'm going to do, and I'm going to abide by this much, but I'm going to leave this other part out. Well, then that's messing up because, see, you're only getting part of the power. You ever seen a car? I mean, think about it. I got a John Deere in my garage, and I got a big old truck in the garage. Okay? The battery on the John Deere is small. Do you get this? The battery, now the big truck that's been sitting in the garage for a while, it won't start because it's been sitting there for a while. And there's nothing wrong with it. I just go put some jumper cables, but I have to jump it with a battery of equal size. Do y'all get me? If I try to go plug it up to something of lesser power, then it's no way it's going to charge to get the whole thing to spark the way it's supposed to be. Many of us are going out in life functioning on smaller power instead of the bigger power. We have to get our mindsets, our hearts, our abilities to see the big power. It's like, now wait a minute. If I go and I take this little battery and put this in this real car, it might start it, but then you're not going to go as fast. The lights won't come on. All the other gadgets that were supposed to function, they won't function if the car even starts. Y'all get my point? So a lot of times we sit back and say, well, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, but it's not working. And I'm trying to rewrite the pages of tomorrow, but it's not working. It's like, well, what power are you using? You got to understand your power source. Because if you're going to the power source of the guy at the barbershop and you don't even really know his background, you know how you know people, but you just know him for that place. It's like, well, where do they go home to? I don't really know. Well, what's his real government name? Because you just know him as Pookie. They're like, I don't know Pookie's real name. So you don't know Pookie's real name. You don't even know where Pookie live at. You don't know nothing about Pookie, but you're going to take advice from Pookie. In the barbershop, telling you, well, that's where I think things work here. We need to do this right there. That's what's going on with the country. And he's gathered everybody's attention. And you got to say, hey, where are you getting that power from? What gives you the right to speak into my life? Because it's going to shape my tomorrow. So you have to watch people say, hold on now. If you're going to speak, make sure I understand your background and that your background is solid. So you have a lot of powerless people trying to speak power into you. And when you get powerless people trying to speak, you'll get hung out there and say, wait a minute, it's not working. It's like, yeah, they didn't know the full strength of the power. So most folks are going on half strength instead of full strength. Y'all get me on this? Yeah. So got to understand, like a good writer writing a fictional book, you can allow your imagination to run as wild or as big as you would like it. Think about that. You have an imagination. You can see things. Everything about this room started in thought, in an inner image. Do y'all get this? Then someone grabbed the pen and a piece of paper and they got to sketching, but the paper was blank. They started sketching out the image of what they wanted things to look like. They started sketching what it should work like. So when you look at this little lights, the fillers and the raised lights, the inner lights, I don't even know what that's called, the hidden lights, all that, it just, what is it called, baby? Recessed lighting. Okay, your lights are recessing. Either way, somebody sat down and said, I'm going to create recessed lighting. I'm going to create this. I'm going to put spotlights here. I'm going to have this screen here. Everything's going to be a certain way. Somebody sat down and sketched it. Do y'all get this? So, what you going to sit down and sketch? What's your future? What are on the pages? You cannot limit this vision of yourself, as it is this vision that will also fuel your actions. So you got to set yourself on a mission to acquire the vision. Most people have the vision and then they sit on down. Like, I got an idea, like, great. And then they sit down. And you're like, I thought you had an idea. It's like, I do have an idea. Well, then let's get to moving on the idea. Well, I need to get this to happen first. You see, you cannot allow the wrong mindset. You have to keep a positive mindset. That's why in the business world you hear a lot. Psychologists said in the whole nine, a positive self-image. This is how we should always look at ourselves. Now somebody else will look at you and say, no, he's not hot, she's not hot, that's not the one. You see, but I got to look at it and say, but my wife looked at me one day and she said, he's the one. You get me? And I'm like, all right. And I had to look back at her and say, oh yeah, baby, you the one too. Do y'all hear me? Yeah. So once you come into agreement, now you become one. Y'all get this? That's right. If there's a disagreement, you never can become one. So therefore, there's no power in that relationship. And when there's no power in the relationship, you cannot write anything into the future because there will always be confusion. You must be mindful. See, yet unfortunately, most people are influenced by negative self-images. So instead of moving forward, they sit there and they contemplate and they argue. These negative self-images also bring with it consequences of bad relationships. I don't want any bad relationships. So what I do, I cut the bad off. That's what you do anyway. You anything that's bad, like clip, prune that. It's like, why? It's like, no, we know that it's going to be work in a good relationship, right? There's going to be work. There's been times when I looked at my wife and like, I'm out. And then I realized that I bought the house, like, you get out. And then she realized that we're married and she said, I ain't going nowhere. And then we both stand there. And then I say, I wasn't trying to leave anyway. And then we go, you understand me? Right, there we go. So now, realize negative people ruin moods that stop positive, productive actions. When you realize that you want to write on the pages of tomorrow, no matter how prideful you get and saying, I can do this on my own. No, you can't. You will need somebody else to support that image, to support that vision. So if Pookie from the barbershop has a small mindset because he can't see anybody doing greater than what he's done, and mind you, he ain't done nothing. So therefore, the minute you say, I'd like to have a house like that, then Pookie gonna stand up and say, well, I don't know why you need a house like that. Them things hard to keep up and this and that. And it's like, you know what? Great. Oh man, I want to get a car like that. Yeah, but they don't make them things too good nowadays. They make the cars in the old days better. And then you see Pookie walking and getting on the bus. Y'all hear me? Y'all hear me? So we got to be mindful that there are people who do have a little power. And they'll speak that little power. But instead of seeing good, they become devil's advocates. You have to be mindful of those. When you map out your vision, you'll hear people say, I see motivational seminars and everything else, and they'll say, what are your goals? Write down your goals. What are your dreams? I saw a study from Harvard where it said only 3% of Americans actually write down their goals. And 3% of people only write down their goals. And I'm like, I thought about that. Like, picture this. There's 100 people. 100 people in a room. 3 of them actually write down what they want. Meaning they got a blank sheet of paper and they actually sketched out the image of their life. They had an imagination. They applied the image of the life that they wanted to have. Instead of accepting the image of somebody else who may have hated you at one time. Someone who may have wanted to see you enslaved, dumb, and undereducated. You accept that image, but when someone says you were created in the image of him, male and female, he created them. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. Nah, you can't do what he says. You gotta do what Master says. You gotta do the small, and I ain't talking about slave master. I'm talking about MasterCard. I'm talking about anything that stops you from getting to the page of tomorrow. You gotta look at it and say, wait a minute now, I have a higher power behind my vision. And it is what's given me the imagination that I have. If you can't imagine your life being good, then why would anybody else want to be around you if you can't even see yourself doing good? If the only thing you can do is play with the devil and be an advocate for him, then this is what's going to happen. Anything that's said to you, you'll start believing lies. It's the way it is. Somebody will tell a lie, you'll believe a lie over the truth. I've seen people get all worked up. You're like, that's a lie. You're arguing over something that's never happened. Have y'all seen that? Somebody accusing somebody of something or thinking something happened that didn't happen. Next thing you know, y'all all arguing. It's like, see, you're playing with the devil. You're being an advocate for the devil. You're convinced others are out to hurt you. You're convinced. It's like, oh. So now what happens? You become a victim. Now you got a victim mentality. So instead of seeing yourself in the winner's circle, you're like, well, I'm not going to win anyway. See, I remember people saying they weren't going to vote. Why? He ain't going to win anyway. Why waste your time voting? You know what? You're an advocate for the wrong person. You don't have a self-image, a positive self-image. So therefore, when a person wins, 4, 5, 6 years later, what do the same people say? Well, he ain't did nothing for us. You ain't did nothing for yourself. That man can't do nothing for you. It is God who can do for you. That man's going to be put out of office and another man or woman's going to be put in, and you still going to be sitting there like an old hound sitting on the rusty nail. Still howling and complaining, but not moving. Never trusting. When you're an advocate for the devil and you're playing his game, you'll never trust anyone. It's just the way the game works. Refusing to form quality relationships. You sting everyone that you come in touch with because you think they're going to get you, so you get them first. So therefore, now what happens is people get to the point where they don't even want to be around you because you never keep your word. Because you're thinking that they're not going to keep theirs. I always tell people, my number's the same, my address is the same. What happened to you? I always tell people, I called you last. You get that? So you look at people like, so what actually happened to you? What advocate got into your spirit to make you think, this ain't gonna work? You get this? And they become guarded and angry. You ever met some folks that they just get angry real fast? I used to be one. I used to fly with my wife. You ain't supposed to agree with that. I used to just get mad. Something happened, I'm like, what? The next thing you know, it's like, ooh, if you'd have caught me like 20 years ago, 20 years ago, bumped me in a club. See, I didn't drink. I never drank. I'm just going, but I like to go out because I like good music. You know, I worked in the music business. So therefore, if you was drunk, you cannot use the excuse, well, I was drunk. That's why I fell on him. I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't be drunk because it's people like me that, wow, shouldn't have fell on me. That's wrong. You get that? Guarded and angry. Just mad at the world for no reason. Go out in the world and be like, I ain't had no dad. I grew up without a dad. So now, forget that. But once you start understanding life to another level, then you start realizing how frivolous you sound. How dumb it is. Y'all know how dumb that is, just hit somebody for no reason? That's just dumb. That's just you ain't got no business putting your hands on nobody's baby, period. You get that? Some people just realize, now if they put their hands on you first, you know what to do. Okay, now understand the game is the devil's advocate. That's what makes you do all of this mistrusting stuff. We cannot play that. So even when people, y'all want to give me the shutdown, I'll give a person a direction. I'll tell them exactly what to do. And then they'll come back and say, well, just for a moment, let's play devil's advocate. And I'll just say, hey, excuse me, stop talking to me. And they'll look at me and say, well, you know what I mean? I say, nah, just for a moment, I don't ever want to play with him because I read Genesis. I know that he's the most cunning beast ever that God made. So think about this. God made him. And he was the most cunning beast that God ever made. Do you know how slick he is then? See, we underestimate the power of God. So then you read the word and God tells you how smooth Satan is. Then you sitting there like, but nah, I can go play with him for a little bit. What he just said is he's smarter than you. Get away. I don't even play with him. Like, what? Nah, dude, I can't even play for play. It's like, come on, let's just play around a little bit. Why? He'll get you anyway. See, a devil's advocate is someone who takes a position he or she does not necessarily agree with for the sake of a debate. When you are moving forward and you know what you want, the last thing you want is a debate. Always get to people and say, well, what's the solution? You know, you get folks, we were talking to folks this last week and they're telling you, well, I don't know, this is why these things don't work. And I look at it and say, well, what's the solution? You're telling me everything that won't work. Tell me what will work. Now, we done wasted a minute worth of conversation on you telling me all the things that won't work. And I don't care about what doesn't work. Why? Because it doesn't work. Why would you ever spend time and thought on what doesn't work? That's the dumbest thing in the world. So you got to spend time on what does work. And the word tells you difficult is the way that leads life. I promise you, everything that's work is going to take work. That's why they call it, it's working. I'm going to say it again, some of y'all missed it. That's why it's called, it's working. Because things that are working takes work. Things that are not working takes no work. And many go that way because it's not working. And if you have a lazy spirit, then you'll always go the way of the non-workers. But if you want your life to work, you have to work. That's why the word says work. It's right there in our face, and we miss it all the time. How much work is this going to take? Well, how good do you want your life? I don't want to do that much work. Well, okay, you said it. It's your life, deal with it. All right. So in taking the position, they seek to engage others in argumentative discussion and process. When you're playing devil's advocate, that's what people do. Well, let's just kind of debate. Now, I understand the purpose of such process is typically to test the quality of the original idea and to identify weaknesses in the structure and to use such information to either improve or abandon the original idea. I subscribe to the mindset that it will work. What we have to do is seek wise counsel. Not seek, well, what if it don't work? No, you seek wise counsel. You get around folks who have done similar. And then you listen to them. So I'll never take counsel from a person who has not built something in that area. If I want to play in the NFL and I want to be a running back, I am going to go speak to Adrian Peterson. And I'm going to say, hey, what, here you go, was your workout plan? Because before he made it, he worked out. So, if you're saying, yeah, but I think it's got to be easier than that, then you just wasted that man's time. Do you get this? If you want life to work, get with people who got life to work. If you don't want life to work, stick around people who ain't got nothing in their life working. Period. You will win. It is called success. You get that? If you want nothing to work, you are successful. So that's why when people say, hey, do you want success? I'm like, depends on what kind of success you're talking about. Because I pay attention to words. Words have value. That's why it's called the Word of God, not the words of God. Every word is linked up to another word that makes a phrase something for us to comprehend. We get the word and then we apply the word into our daily life. And when you apply the word into your daily life, you start filling the pages that are blank. And you'll see that you're smiling. You'll see that it's what you want. See, I like being driven towards my goals. I like to work towards my goals. And I make sure that my goals are huge. Because I know me. I'm naturally a worker. I'm going to work. Even if I was retired, I would probably get up and go work. I would go help somebody else. That's just me. That's my character. So therefore, I would have to pick something bigger to kind of get me out of the mindset of, well, I'm working. I'm helping this person. I'm helping that person. It's like, nah, you just coasting. You all know your ability, right? Sometimes if you know your ability, you got to do something to go a little beyond the normal. So understand this. Society has accepted this game called devil's advocate as a good action to take before starting anything new. It becomes normal to people. You get that? We get desensitized. The things that should have bothered you, the things that would have bothered our parents in the 50s today, we just act like we didn't even hear it. So it's like the parents would say, did you hear what they said? Get away from that. Today our kids are like, oh, what's going on? You know, it's like funny. I grew up in a neighborhood where if they shot a gun, you went away, right? Then I get around people who like, oh, they're shooting, and they run towards the gun. I'm like, are you silly? And then you realize that they didn't have the same upbringing. I'm talking about my wife. She grew up in a suburb. I grew up in the hood. That's where I'm like, we were downtown Minneapolis one time, and all of a sudden, she's like, oh, who's shooting? And I'm just like, girl, if you don't come on. But here's the difference. She had never seen someone laying on the ground with their brains blown out like I have. You understand that? So I had a different experience. She had never seen a friend get shot and you're crying because your friend got shot. I had a different experience. So while on TV and on the news, it's like, wow, they're shooting. I saw this in Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society. I'm like, but I actually grew up in that real life. So therefore, when you hear that sound, you know, get away. Somebody's loved one is about to be taken. And you just pray it's not one of yours. So therefore, you got to just stay focused on the direction that you want to go. So however, the Lord, see, we see how the devil played the game. The Lord tells us to focus on the positive, and it shall come to us. We shall not doubt. So it tells you, whoever doubts, he's just like the one in a wave, like the wave of the sea, tossed to and fro. Why? You're doubting. Today you're going, tomorrow you're thinking about something else. Today, next day you're going, and next day you're doing something else. And it's just like you are messing up the pages of your life. You are messing up. You say you want X amount of dollars, but you keep doing the opposite that gets you to that. And it's because you don't realize that you're being an advocate for the devil through thoughts. Because no one's going to just knowingly admit that, man, I'm playing with the devil. Yeah, no one will admit that. But then you got to look at your actions and say, okay, what was that evil thought that made you sit down and stop? What was that? Why did you not go to that job? If they said show up to work at 9 a.m., why did you show up at 9:15? And when they asked you why you were late, you gave the manager an attitude. You late. You got to walk in apologizing, not giving an attitude, right? You got to show it like, look, you know what? I will not let it happen again. What is that? That's called repenting. When you repent, that means I will not do this again. My apologies, I will leave earlier. But when you bring in the mess of yesterday into somebody else's good fortune, then they say, you know what? All right, going to work. We're going to get rid of you. You get that? They start taking notes about you. You get that? Why? Because you play with the wrong person. But when you play with the right people, favor is always shown. Why? Because it won't be normal for you to show up like that. And you will even be able to speak there and say, you know what? I won't let it happen again. I should have left earlier. I take full responsibility. It is my fault. You get that? Then it's like, you know what? There's hope in you. It's like, why? Because the minute you point the finger, any business leader, any coach, any true leader, the minute you point the finger will say, oh, you just blame the people. You just blame someone else. It's like, it may have been something else. It may have been that accident. It really may have been. Don't you blame it. You just got to think about it like, you know what? I mean, think about it. You ever seen the old Batman shows? Yeah. Batman would always get caught up. I'm talking about the Batman and Robin with the when they hit you and they're pow, boom. You got the music and they show the big pow and the wild up there and the Penguin and the Joker. That Batman, not this modern day stuff. Every time it would get ready to end, will Batman make it out? We'll see you next time, same bat time, same bat channel, right? And you will be, as a kid, looking, it's like, oh man, Batman, will he get out of this? It's a bomb about to explode, you know, and you see he's tied up. Him and Robin are tied up, and the bomb's about to go off. And you see it's like 10 seconds left. Then it comes on the next week. And you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, Batman about to die. And then he looks at Robin and says, I got to get to my utility belt. All right? Once he gets to that utility belt, it's on and popping, right? You get to that utility belt, then it's like, boom, now they put out something that's a shield. The thing explodes, but the shield covers them. And then they let themselves out. And they cut themselves out. You know, I see one where he threw the boomerang and it came back and cut them loose. I said, look at Batman. See, you got to understand, when you are going in life, God is your utility belt. You just going to get caught up in some stuff because you know you are on a mission to do something to make life great for you. You fighting for your family. You are the Cape Crusader for your future.
That's right.
But when you get caught up, you got like, okay, all right, God, here we go. They got me tied up here. Because others are going to be looking and saying, it's a wrap, Jay Lee. You ain't going to make it, Diane. Oh, no, it's done for. And you were like, they don't know about my utility belt. You get that? They don't know that I'm about to write something different on this blank page. You get this? And now, because you have that power in you, you start writing a different script than the adversary wanted for you in the first place. So, if you start every situation looking for a debate, there is no chance for success. Realize that. When you start something, you look forward to succeed. Engaging others in argumentative discussion is contradictory to the Lord's word that tells us to come into agreement. When I know I want something to go on and people start debating me, I stop talking. I'm like, oh, you debating me? It's like, no, we got to make this. I got to do this. There is no time to play. Do y'all hear me? We don't have time for this. I got to have it. That's why you cannot be a person with a devil's advocate mindset. It is the worst action, as it will always focus your mind subconsciously down the wrong road. So you've seen the golfers. If you ever played a game of golf, or you were a good coach in golf, they will tell you to focus where you want the ball to go. Because you'll get to that point where you'll see the pond is over here and all of that. Well, what happens is subconsciously, you'll go into your swing. And you'll go and swing and swing and swing. And you know you're looking at the tee. You see where the ball is supposed to go. But somehow in the midst of your swing, at the quick of a second, you look at that pond. And boom, you hit the ball. And where does it go? Right into the pond. And they'll tell you, you looked at the pond. But you do it so fast, it's like a... You say, no, I didn't. It's like, yes, you did. You looked at the pond. That's why the ball went into the pond. The ball will always go where you want the ball to go as long as you focus that. Same way, your life will always go where you want your life to go as long as you're focusing on where you want your life to go. That's why you cannot play any games with the devil, because he will beat you 100% of the time. So therefore, if I know you're going to cheat me, I just know. Like, oh, we're going to get in the card game, right? You know, think about it. It's like, if I know you're going to cheat me, I don't know how you do it, but every time you cheat me, I ain't even going to play with you no more. You go to the casino. I don't gamble, for the record, but if you go in a casino, there are people who are banned. You get that? You will walk in the door. I see the TV shows. They walk in the door and facial recognition software pops up. You got to understand that when people say, you can hide out. No, they got software now that can be like, nope, he's here. He's here. Get him away from them tables. Why? Because they know. They don't know how you do it, but you gonna do it. So therefore, that's how the adversary plays against you. You won't know. You'll think. He'll make you think, oh, you're going to get over on this one. You're going to get over. And then next thing you know, woo, you're like, oh, I'm caught? Yes, you caught. Or I lost? Yes, you lost everything. You get that? That's why you just got to go ahead and do it right. See, it is as I've always said, when I point out multiplication, 1 times 0 is 0. I tell people all the time, do the math. Who you dealing with? Who you working with? Just do the math. No matter what in life, everything is based on numbers. I did that message already. Do the math. If you with people, and they're talking right, but consistently unproductive, somewhere along the line in their mind, they start playing games with the devil. But here's the point. They actually listen. Now, the devil would jump into everybody. He's just going to get up in there. Y'all seen that Denzel Washington show? When the spirit was transferring from each person. And they singing that crazy song. You know, time is on my side. Yes, it is. And then he touched somebody else and then they sing it. Denzel standing in the street looking like, oh my goodness, this demon is everywhere. And he was like, now he's trying to fight a demon. Because everyone who's fought that demon, even when they thought they were killing the demon, he touched the guard. He said, no, you killed the body. Do y'all understand how the spirit realm works? You killed the body. You did not kill the spirit. So whether it's a good spirit or a bad spirit, that's why you got to stay away from bad spirits. Because now that bad spirit will get into somebody else, and if they don't recognize it, hold on, that ain't a right thought. Get out of me. What made me think that?
Right.
You understand that? Who had road rage before? I done had people cross in front of me, and I literally, for a split second, for just a split second, you see yourself stomp it on the gas like I'm about to ram them and let them know who I am, and I'm gonna yell out Chicago when I do it. You understand me? You gotta claim your set at that moment. Like, oh, now what? Now what? You turn into demonic, right? So for a split second you look, and then you just gotta get that back in the day, right? And you move on. But you do not allow that spirit. You flush it out instantly. Do y'all feel me? If not, the consequences are bad. So now that you understand that, I had to get you to understand that so I can ask you a serious question again. Now I ask you, if you had a blank check that you could fill in any number, how much would you make that check for? Think about it. You have no limits. What is the number? A lot of people are shouting out ideas, numbers, and theories. But we got to understand, once you write that in, you wrote that in. You get this? So this means you must become a self-disciplined person. Whenever a check is written, there is always a ledger or a memo that says what the check is for. So would you really walk up in the store and just write a check for whatever price they tell you? Or would you want to know what's the real cost for this?
Right.
You must know what's going in that ledger. You must itemize your vision so that you write in the correct cost. We don't want to be ignorant with our finances, yelling with the top down, screaming out money ain't a thing, and then 10 years later, you're losing everything. That happened to Brother Jermaine. I'm not wishing bad on him. God bless him and his family. But it happened. It's not happening to you, is it? Okay, because you understand that there's going to be an itemized cost on everything. So, although the check is blank, you would not have a lottery mentality with this. Because it's those with a lottery mentality. Studies have shown you cannot be a statistic. Studies show the average person who hit the lotto within a few years was broke again. So, wait a minute. You broke again? Studies show if you take a multimillionaire and give that multimillionaire's money to a poor man and give that poor man's lifestyle to the multimillionaire, within 5 years they would trade places again. Because why? One understands the itemized cost, and others just saying, I just wanted this. But once they get it, they start functioning with no plan. So, your itemized cost will cover all your expenses for tomorrow, so don't short yourself. So, lifestyle item cost. Let's look at it this way. You can say, all right, we got a lifestyle item cost. That means adding in the cost. As we say, our dream home. For me, I just went there and put a number there. Dream home, let's say it's $40 million. Not 40 million, 4 million. Y'all like $40 million home. My wife looked at me crazy. That's, well, Lord, I'll take a 40 million, but that means I got 100 times that in the bank. Okay, that's just the way I think. I ain't gonna do it and be broke. But say you got a $4 million home. You got to understand that adding the cost of upkeep, taxes, and insurance over your life. So some people say, I want a $4 million home, and they ask for $4 million, and they get a check for $4 million. 2-3 years later, you lost the home. And you're like, wait a minute, but I paid cash for the house. 10 years later, you got a leak in your house. It's like, why? The roof needs replaced. So did you really write the correct cost down? So many people are out saying, I want this because this is what it costs. And they take the paycheck to paycheck mentality with them into their future. No, we're going to write down the right cost. So understand, what is the cost of the second home? Kids schooling, cars, trips, vacations, health care, food, clothes, your givings, your entertainment, and your miscellaneous. You got to even schedule like this just happened. I couldn't, there's miscellaneous cost. It's like something happened that just came up and I have to account for that. That's why they say someone has to be held accountable. That is still counting. Y'all get this? So your itemized cost must fit. So if you have that $4 million home, then that means you need an extra $50,000 per year at least for the next 45 years of your lifetime of living there. That would mean you need another approximately 2.3 to 2.5 million, and that doesn't account for all the inflation. Do y'all get that? So I want you to really think about everything that you want in your life, but then think deeper and realize that, 20 years ago, gas prices was $1.50 a gallon. Today, gas prices is $4 and $5 a gallon. Do y'all get the difference? So if you can't see inflation because it is invisible, you must recognize it so that as you are writing your blank check, you don't want to get to that moment and say, man, I wrote this check and it wasn't enough. Because now you're back at the drawing board trying to write another check, but you only had that one chance to write that check. So you have to count the cost, but you got to count the real cost. You don't look at the sticker, you look at the maintenance, you look at everything it takes to upkeep it. So if you're buying a brand new car, people get settlements. I've seen it. I'm picturing this family in my mind right now. They got a settlement. They went and bought a brand new Navigator. 5 years later, that thing was so broken down and the warranty was gone. They drove it all over and looked good. The next thing you know, it's like, oh, these things, they raggedy. No, you spent all the money and didn't do the upkeep. Right. Now imagine your personal life. You need upkeep. You need upkeep yourself. You're going through life without even upgrading yourself. That's even your mentality, your education. That doesn't mean you have to go back to school, but that means you get online and you learn something new every day so that you can upgrade yourself. What did Beyonce say, let me upgrade you? She was telling y'all, you sitting there, I ain't going to upgrade me. I'm fine. I'm fine. I done made it through life this long. I might as well continue this way. Life has changed. I tell folks, it's like, okay, if you're not connected socially, you don't have an email address, then you know what? That's a problem. If you look at just the U.S. mail system, and they're saying that the post office are losing billions. You know why they're losing billions? Because people don't get their mail mailed to them anymore. They get it sent in an email. And that costs nothing. Email addresses are free. Y'all get this? And it costs nothing. So it helps the bottom line of the company that sends you the bill. It saves trees because nobody needs the paper anymore. Do you get this? Everything works out. And if you do it right, then there's systems that you can click a button right there online and pay the bill. That upgrades your credit. That might have been too good for some. So now I ask you, what is your blank check? What is on your blank check? You have to be mindful of that. My man Jim Carrey, I love this story. When he went to California for the first time, he wrote himself a check for $20 million. When he arrived in Hollywood at age 17, the check for services rendered was a great goal of his. Well, he was able to cash that check. Do y'all understand that? Write yourself a blank check and put a date on it and say, you know what? I will be able to deposit this check by this time. And then you do all the things that you need to do. But I'm promising you, the minute you set a goal to do it, a devil's advocate is going to come. So you have a blank check from God that says, you know what? I'll give you as much as you want, but you got to really tell me what you want. There's no limit to your life, but I got to go ahead and get it. So when you do things correct, just pay attention to this. When you do things correct, you can set the necessary goals that start the mapping out of the life you really would like to live. So when people say, I'm not happy with my life, do something about it. Don't sit there and say you ain't happy. Get up. You have a clear target. You understand yesterday and past life. You know what present life is today, but tomorrow is the future. Your goal is to set you up for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a blank page. Do y'all get that? It is your imagination that you need to go sketch out. Just like any good drawer, what they call those, the architects, when they're mapping out the future. You map it out. You know what you want. You got all the visual aids there. I don't care, house, car, clothes, everything. Get the real cost. But get the cost. And understand this. You don't ever want to be caught in life maintaining. Had a guy tell me today, how you doing, brother? I'm maintaining. I said, that means you stand in the same spot. I don't ever want to just maintain. I'm growing. I'm going somewhere. I'm on a mission. I can't sit and maintain nothing. When you maintain, that means you're insane. That's my name. That's Paul Jones now. Don't take my mess. Your sharpened skills. You will need sharpened skills. Your increased network and your attitude. All of this must be aligned for your future. And it should all match the results of the blank check. When you know what that number really is, what it means is, as my man earlier said, 100 million. How you know it ain't 150 million? Once you see, here's what happens to people. The minute you get everything you want, then you're like, you know what? I'm tired of going to this airport. Now I want a jet. It's like, oh, you want a jet? Okay, you got to sketch that in. It's like, oh, I don't have enough for the jet. Now you just put yourself in the same mentality, but on a higher level. Do you get that? You make more. You got everything that you said you wanted, but now that you got to that point, all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I'd like to get my own boat, or I want to rent a boat, and I want to be able to go selling. I ain't gonna sell it. I'll have the whole crew there to be like a little mini yacht. I ain't doing nothing. I don't even want to. I'll let the kids be the skippers. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy. But the whole point is, what's the cost? Is a helicopter going to land on your ship? Because it's like, oh, we want to go shopping now. So now you and your wife and your family, you're flying. What? People live this way, so don't sit back and look at me like I'm crazy. People live this way. They're out, they're enjoying the ocean, and then from there, they pick the phone up and they call and say, hey, come get us. We want to go over, and we're close to the island, so we want to go shopping. We don't want to take the boat, so a helicopter lands on them. Okay, what's the cost? What's the cost? You get something, you see somebody else struggling, now you want to take care of multiple families. That's my problem right there. That's not a problem, but that's my problem. I see other people struggling, and I want to go help them. Because my whole mission statement in life is to improve the lives of as many people as possible. Well, sometimes I will go give them the money, and then I don't have none. And they don't even realize that sometimes I've literally, like, I've given you all I had. Because you make your life a vessel to sow seed. So you got to say, write that in, because you got to write that in, but you still have to have the goal. So I encourage you all to know what the blank check is for. If you are given a blank check from the richest man in the world to ever live, and he said, I'm only going to give you one opportunity. You can write this in. Don't call me no more. You tell me what you want. You write it out, and that's it. That's a wrap. What would you really write in there? Would you do the research and really think about the life you want? Realize the minute you start picturing yourself in that area, the advocates are going to come. Y'all get this? You have to kick the advocates out of your mind and stay focused to the true imagination of the great life that you want. When you do that, you will start living, you will start working, you will remember, if you want your life to work, that means work. You'll start doing all the things that you need to do in life to actually succeed. Today is a new day. Tomorrow is a blank page. What will you start to do right now so that you can start sketching and mapping your life out tomorrow?
Thank you for listening. You've just heard the life-altering Word of God. If you simply believe it, you are empowered to realize your victory through faith.